WNPV AM 1440. AM 1440, we are WNPV. This is the Bucksmont Business Journal on your Monday. Coming up right after our program, it's either going to be racing or Daryl Berger. It's all dependent on the weather, so we don't know. We want to thank Gary Volpe coming in. He's going to stick around a couple minutes. But right now, we want to turn this part of the program over to our county commissioner. I hate to use the word minority commissioner, but he is the lone Republican. He's Joe Gale. And, Joe, we haven't seen you for a while. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me on, Barry. I appreciate the opportunity.
It is a pleasure. We were talking before we went on the air. It's your 7-month anniversary.
Yep. July 4th will be 7 months. Took office January 4th. Feels like a couple years sometimes. It's a very busy schedule, but it's been a wonderful opportunity. It's a big county. There's 62 municipalities, so there's always something going on, whether it's a board meeting or a ribbon cutting or community event. I'm making my best effort to get to them and make the most of it, and it's going very well so far.
I see yesterday you were out at the Montgomery County Open Golf Tournament with our mutual friend, Tony Leodore. That was fun.
That was a fun one.
You know, he got a little messed up with the weather, too.
Yeah, they did. Luckily, the golf courses that cleared up with the rain, but got to hand out the trophies to the winners. So
that's always fun.
It was a fun event.
Yeah, I saw it. Some of those trophies were big.
They were big. Some of them date back to the 70s, and they put the winner's name each year on the plaque.
Now, that's obviously the fun part of being a county commissioner.
Right.
These are the good things you look forward to. What are some of the things that you now go through and say, oh, boy, I didn't see that coming? Is there anything there that sticks out?
Well, just when you get in office and you see firsthand the amount of money that we oversee and how we spend it, it's an annual budget of nearly $389 million. And, government a lot of times, me being very fiscally conservative, it's spend, spend, spend. And you have to remember it's the tax dollars. It's the people's tax dollars. So I try to educate myself on every decision I make. I do my own research. I ask the questions I find necessary before we do spending in those large numbers.
Yeah, you can talk to almost anybody, Joe, who talks about elections and politicians, and their big beef about people is when they're running, they have one set of promises, then they get elected, and they're totally different. But I was looking at your palm card from back there, and the things you said you were going to do, oppose tax increases, prioritize spending, these are things you're actually doing, and I know that you've actually, for the first time in a long time, you cast some no votes on the board.
Yeah, I mean, in the first 6 months, I casted 4 no votes, which in recent history with other previous commissioners, that's a lot. And I think it's good to keep them honest. That's healthy. And if I don't agree with something, if it doesn't feel right, settle in my gut right, I remember all the people I met last year during the campaign, the thousands of doors I knocked on, the 137 Cup of Joes, the meet and greets I had. I went into the living rooms at homes. I have to remember one day I'm going to look at those people in the face. I still do. I stay in touch with all my supporters and the folks I met last year. I have to stay true to what I ran on, and if I don't agree, if I think something's wasteful spending or we're not prioritizing properly, I vote no. And as the minority commissioner, as you mentioned earlier, I'm on the board with 2 Democrats. I'm the sole Republican, but we have to have checks and balances. If we all walk alike, think alike, talk alike, there's no point in having 3. So I'm the voice for, I feel, fiscal responsibility and a watchdog for the taxpayers. And
what are people that you bump into on the street saying to you, Joe?
I actually get a lot of positive comments, which is makes me feel good because, it gives me the energy to work hard. You have to have thick skin in my position, and the public, they appreciate the fact that I'm being careful with their tax dollars. Being a new member on the board, the questions I ask, I wasn't involved in the process leading up to all the votes that we're voting on. That's healthy as well. A lot of the members of the public have the same questions I do, being a new member. And they still stay engaged. I get a lot of emails from them. I get handwritten letters from the public, constituent phone calls. And I personally respond to everyone I can.
Yeah. Do people treat you different now than they did before January 4th?
I get called commissioner now. I have to get used to that. So when I'm around 1 Montgomery Plaza, some of the county employees refer to me as commissioner, and I'm still down to earth. I'm humble because of the race I ran. It was a long shot, and that keeps me grounded because I remember the people that put me in there.
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, I mean, you were the people's candidate, right? You were Trump before Trump was Trump, right?
Trump before Trump.
How's the Republican Party in Montgomery County treating you now?
We have they're organizing a breakfast in a few weeks with municipal leaders and area leaders of different Republican committees throughout the county, and I agreed to appear and give a county update and speak to the folks and have any questions or feedbacks they may have. The parties, it is very unorganized. I hope that changes and we can improve things, especially for this fall with Donald Trump, because I think for the first time since 1988, since George Bush won Pennsylvania might be in play for Donald Trump. The numbers reflect that in the polls, and if he can hold his own, we know the registration in Montgomery County has gone Democrat, but if he can hold his own, I think he can pull off the state of Pennsylvania if he does well in Montgomery County, Bucks County, Chester, Delaware, and even Philadelphia.
It should be noted that you were the first person, high-ranking elected official in the county that endorsed Donald Trump.
Yeah, and I didn't know it at the time when I did it. It was funny. I was the first elected official to formally endorse Donald Trump in Pennsylvania, and then the day after, Congressman Tom Marino and Lou Barletta out in the western end of the state, they endorsed him. I guess they thought, we better jump on board. But I endorsed him before the big Super Tuesday in February. And, there's so many parallels between my campaign last year and his campaign. It just shows you that people had enough of the status quo. Hillary Clinton's going to be more of the same. She's the definition of establishment, and it's going to be cronyism and all political hacks in her cabinet positions. And Donald Trump will be refreshing, and I think he'll surround himself with experts in all the cabinets and ambassador positions. And as a good leader, they surround themselves with people that are knowledgeable, and then they execute. It's an executive. They make a decision based on what they are reported on.
Now, you mentioned to me when we talked briefly over the weekend that one of the surprises to you becoming a commissioner is, and this has a lot to do with the Trump situation, is that the news media isn't quite fair or doesn't quite give you the coverage that maybe they would give to other candidates.
Yeah, well, you notice that you see it on the national level. There's a bias in the media. But even locally, I've noticed, sometimes I might give it a whole explanation. I'm trying to be fiscally responsible with the county tax dollars and give an explanation why. And then the report will say, Commissioner Joe Gale says he's trying to be fiscally responsible. Leave out the whole explanation. Where others get, paragraphs. So I have noticed that a bit. That's why I try to stay out in the public. I continue to have my meet and greets at Cup of Joe's, so I can engage with the public one-on-one. And it's something that the conservative movement, unfortunately, has to deal with. There is a bias in the media, and it's hard to get accurate news coverage.
Yeah. I mean, lately with the way that, and again, I'm not taking sides here, but I think the national media has really been unfair to Donald Trump. I mean, every little thing that happens to him is magnified 1,000 times. Well, I'll get off my soapbox there, but it's just you have to shake your head. But one of the things that I talked to you about is the meetings that you do, the commissioners do, are recorded on videotape, and they are available on the website, the county website, so people can go back in there unfiltered and see the meeting.
Yeah, the Montgomery County website, moncopa.org. Right on the home screen, you see the pictures of the commissioners, and there's a tab, Commissioners. We have an archive of all the video of the meetings. And the last meeting I had a no vote. It didn't get any coverage. There were reporters there, but unfortunately didn't get coverage. So I hope the public can hear about that, and I'll be willing to discuss that further.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I asked you to come on. One, we were due to have a sit down anyway, but I was surfing the TV over the weekend, or I guess it was Thursday or Friday, whatever, and I saw the commissioners meeting, and I came across this no vote situation. I wanted to see it again. You said that it's on the website. I went to the website, and the commissioners' meetings were down for maintenance.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I didn't get to see it again. But one of the things you were talking about is a project in Glenside called North Hills Manor, which people that I've never heard about it, and I've talked to some people that are fairly knowledgeable in local politics and local bill. No one's ever heard of this, but it's been going on for about 12 years.
Yeah.
And this is something you voted against, and I thought you'd have the opportunity to say, tell people a little bit about it and why you voted no.
All right. So we have the Montgomery County Housing Authority, and they're actually federal employees, but we appoint the board members and, the hiring of it. And then every year the county allocates housing dollars to multiple projects throughout the county. Some of it's federal dollars, some of it's state dollars, some of it's county dollars. The county dollars are actually dollars that we collect through the Recorder of Deeds Department. There's about a $5 additional fee added onto recording fees that we put into this pot for housing authority projects. And some of it's tax credits, and then every year they allocate it to projects. And one project really stuck out in my mind because it's North Hills Manor. It's a low-income housing community in Upper Dublin Township, and it's 50 units, and they were built in the 1950s. They're in rough shape. They could use renovation. And there's a developer, though, like to tear them down and build 50 new ones, but with the price tag of nearly $17 million. At first it was reported it would be between $17 and $20 million, and now it's around $17 million. But it's $17 million to build 50 new units. They're not even gaining units, tearing 50 down, building 50 new ones. And out of the pot of money from county dollars, 44% of the county dollars are going towards this one project. And I felt that, if you do the math, $17 million into 50 units, that's about $330,000 per unit. And I come from the private sector where I work for a home building corporation in their mortgage division, and I know the private sector would never build townhomes. They're going to be twins for $330,000 per unit. I mean, here in Montgomery County, you can buy a luxury townhome for that price, and that's the retail price, not the price to construct. So that stuck out, and then I noticed there were some letters to the editors that they shared the same frustrations I had, and I brought it up when we advertised that we had a public hearing on how the dollars would be spent back in June. I attended the public hearing. I brought up my same concerns regarding this project. Nothing happened, and then it came to the board meeting in July, and nothing had changed, and I voted no. So, and I'm glad I did, because, like I said, I have to face the people, and I told them I would be fiscally responsible with their dollars, and it's just not sustainable. What I would like to have seen them do is go back to the developer and say, look, your project's out of scope, it's too costly as a whole, tone it down, bring it down, and then maybe we'll contribute. Because there was other, I know Lansdale Borough had some projects in mind that they wanted funding for.
And they got nothing.
So I think we could have done a better job at managing the dollars.
When you think about that, they're twins, so the entire unit costs $660,000.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, Joe.
It is a lot of money. And it's a prime example of public sector versus private sector. The projects get too bloated, and it's not sustainable. You can't have projects continue to exist like that.
One of the things I looked at in the Glenside area, the average home is, I think, $252,000. So the county is building homes that are $70,000 more, a little more than $70,000 more than the average home in the community that you're building it in.
Yeah.
Which just
where's the common sense? That's what I know. I was on your show a couple months ago, and you were asking me, as the youngest elected county commissioner in the history of Montgomery County, do you ever feel overwhelmed, and how do you make your decisions? And I just say, if you use common sense as a taxpayer, where I want my money being spent this way, you can't go wrong.
No, it is a lot of common sense. Let me just broaden the discussion a little bit. Why is the county, I know it's long before you got there, but why is the county in the housing business?
Good question. I mean, a lot of it is state and federal dollars, but the county supposedly being closer to home, knowing where the dollars are most needed in geographical areas of the county, we're supposed to know best of where to allocate it. But, the honestly is, I've less government, get out of the way, don't get involved in every sector of our lives, and this is a prime example of that.
It's just a lot of money for one project. And the reason that it did ring a bell to me is I was doing the news one morning, and we had the story about Borough Council in Lansdale. Their grant was turned down. Right. So I thought, well, part of the reason is there's no money. So anyway, we're up against maybe the race, so we're going to check in and see where we are racing-wise. Joe Gale is with me this morning, County Commissioner, and Gary Volpe's still here. We may get him in just a minute on the Bucksmont Business Journal on your Monday.
Hey, Phil, looks like you got everything you need for a backyard barbecue. WNPV AM 1440.
As we stroll by the sea together.
AM 1440, we are WNPV, taking you back to 1963 with that summer song. Boy, I remember that on the boardwalk in Ocean City. Joe, were you down the shore this weekend?
I wasn't this weekend. I actually went to New York for the day on Saturday. But the other weekends I've been getting down.
It's amazing with Facebook. You can follow people wherever they go. And I did see a picture there of you and Mayor Kenny from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I ran into him in Margate, actually. My parents have a house in Ventnor.
What was he doing down there?
I think it was Memorial Day weekend. I ran into him at a donut shop, and somebody thought it would be nice to get a photo together, being neighboring counties.
He looked kind of friendly.
Yeah, friendly. I just don't agree ideology.
Oh, don't get me started on that.
Pretty far to the left there.
Did he know who you were?
Yeah, he was aware. He knew me as the young guy that got elected.
Oh, you're a young guy in Montgomery County. Anyway, he's Joe Gale, and he's a Montgomery County commissioner with 3.5 years left on his term.
Yeah, quite a long time, and especially in the political scene. It's a 4-year term, and I'm going to try to continue what I'm doing. You know, we're 6 months in as far as meetings, and I've had 4 no votes. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I'm not afraid to. I'm not a guy that goes along to get along. I saw that in that's why I mentioned the TV thing. I mean, people can watch the TV presentation of the meeting, and I would have to say that Commissioner Shapiro was not happy you voted no. Well, they're not used to it.
No.
You know, the person I replaced on the board, he didn't vote no except once to be vice chair of the board in a 4-year term. Mm-hmm. So for me to do 4 in 6 months is quite a bit. And, you know, there's been others. You know, we've had a consulting firm that wanted a contract amendment for... They had a contract for $1.3 million for a year, and then 6 months in gave the county a bill for $67,000, so they did work out of scope. And it's something that we might have an ongoing contract for 10 years. And I felt like that wasn't a good sign looking forward, and I voted against the contract amendment. Ban the Box came up, which was with job applications in the county. They're removing the checkbox, so you have to say whether or not you had a prior criminal conviction. You know, to me, that didn't make common sense. I think the best way to see if somebody's trustworthy and forthright is see if they check the box. There's been a lot of things that if I don't agree with, I don't support. And there's a lot of things I also do behind the scenes to make positive differences.
It only makes sense if I'm an employer. And, you know, I know people make mistakes, and they're certainly entitled to a second chance. But I would think the employer would be entitled to know if that person that he or she is hiring had spent time in prison.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way to stop the reentry system, people not going back to prison. But we already have, you know, work reentry programs where we help educate the prisoners and help them find jobs for when they come out. And to me, to remove the box, you know, I'm 27 years old. Mm-hmm. A lot of my peers don't get into trouble. Mm-hmm. They went to college, they graduated, they worked hard, and they have difficulty finding a job no matter what they majored in. And now we're just giving, you know, to remove the box, it weakens the deterrent of prison and the consequences after you serve time. You know, many people don't commit crime because they know prison's not a pleasant place to be, and they know when you get out of prison it's difficult to find a job and get a stable life again. That's the reality of it, and for many decades it's been that way. So to remove the box is less of a deterrent in my mind, especially for county government employees.
Yeah. I've always felt that it's inbred that if people have a good moral compass. Many mornings I'm driving to work at 4:30 in the morning. I'm the only car on the road and the light's red, but I still stop.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I say, why am I sitting here at 4:30 in the morning at a light when there's not one person on the road? But then, you know, it's just the way, you know, I don't want to get a ticket. I don't want to be. That's it.
And I brought up, you know, we will be spending, we're in the engineering phases right now, but millions of dollars to secure One Montgomery Plaza, the administrative building in the county across from the courthouse. But they're adding elevators and securing the whole building. And then we're having people come in for interviews, and we don't know what their background is or anything. So the whole thing, again, no common sense, and I did not support that.
What about the bathrooms in the courthouse? Are they male, female, or?
Right now they're male and female. That came up a couple months back. A reporter asked, back when there was a national spotlight on the transgender restrooms, and they asked the commissioner's opinion, and the other two were in favor of possibly, as we renovate and build new buildings, to have a transgender restroom. Or I was opposed to that. And what I told the reporter was I couldn't believe it was a national issue. The national conversation was about bathrooms. And again, many decades there's been a men's room and a women's room. And now for the government to add in schools add another restroom just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if you look at all the things, whether it's federal, state, local, that are on the platter of government officials, I would think that bathrooms would be down.
Well, I mean, look at all the issues we have. We have ISIS. I mean, there's attacks. There's police getting shot every week practically all summer long throughout the country. There's unemployment. All these issues going on, and to make bathrooms a focus is just totally ridiculous.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you are a young guy. You seem to enjoy what you're doing. You're good at it as far as everybody can see. Where do you think you'll be doing 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Let's see, I would be 37 years old in 10 years.
Gary, how'd you like to be 37 years? Gary and I are looking at each other.
So, I guess by that age I'd have a family, and my brother, who you met before, who was my campaign manager, Sean, just took his bar exams last week. He took the New Jersey bar and the Pennsylvania bar. He graduated from Villanova Law School in the spring. The two of us would like to go into the real estate business together one day and invest in real estate. So hopefully we'll be maybe miniature Donald Trumps. But
I mean, politically, do you see yourself going on to higher office?
Yeah, I was actually, the NBC 10 did an article, and they asked me the same question, previous county commissioners in Montgomery County, because it's the third most populated county in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, have ran for governor. We have one currently running for attorney general. They've ran for U.S. Senate. And to run for governor, the age requirement's 30, so I won't make the age requirement the next round. But, I think if I do a good job as county commissioner, I stay out front in the public, if I continue to attend all the community events, stay in the forefront of the minds in the public, I think, we'll see how I go politically. But right now, I just every day try to do my research and make the best decisions I can, and God willing, we'll see what happens in the long run.
Just doing my math, the governor's race, I think, comes up in 2019.
My re-election, if I run again, is 2019.
Yeah, well, what would you think if you were running for governor against Josh Shapiro?
Wouldn't that be something? Two Montgomery County homegrown boys.
Oh, boy. That would be
2022.
All right, 2022. Yeah. Well, that'll be interesting.
See you doing the math there.
Yeah. Speaking of Mr. Shapiro, it's well known that he's running for attorney general. Does that affect anything? I mean, he's obviously the chair of the county commissioners while running for another office. Does that get in the way?
There's a lot of I got letters from the public and phone calls of people upset that he was reelected a county commissioner in November and then sworn in for a second term in January, and then 5 days within his new term he announced he was running for statewide office for attorney general. And I think the public doesn't like that. They don't. They want people to concentrate on one job they're elected to before they move on to another.
Yeah, and it should be noted that the first meeting after the re-election there was a tax increase.
Yeah, December 17th, so the last meeting before I took office, it was the previous board, they raised taxes 9.87%, nearly 10% of the county property tax. So that took effect this year. I hope they don't do it again next year. We've already had fees increase. My first no vote was when the health department increased their inspection fees. Yeah. But, you raise those fees, that affects restaurants, swim clubs, all different types of businesses that have health inspectors come out. And, again, it's growing government, especially at the back end where you just had the county property tax increase.
One thing I thought was odd about the county, I was down there, it might have changed, it was about a year ago, I had to get something done on a deed and whatever, and I went to pay for it with a credit card, and they said, we don't take credit cards.
Yeah, I don't think they still, I think it's still that way.
And I said, well, how about a debit card? And they said, no. She said, cash or an approved check. Yeah. So I had to go and find a I had to walk around Norristown to find a debit machine or an ATM to get the cash. I think the charge was $4 to take out 50 or 60.
Boy.
I just thought it was odd. I mean, the county's in the convenience thing, and obviously that's been there long before you.
Yeah.
And I understand there's a charge to the merchant for using a credit card, but I thought it was odd the county doesn't publicize it.
Yeah, I'll look into it. That would be good for the residents and people using the Recorder of Deeds Department.
Yeah, I mean, walking around Norristown with a couple $100 in your pocket is...
I mean, that's another thing. Our county seat has such a stigma to it, Norristown, right, with the level of crime, and it has a lot of room for improvement in my mind and potential. I had a meeting about a month ago with the chief of police in Norristown to discuss the crime situation, things we can do to improve it. So I really hope in my 4-year term I can point out accomplishments to revitalization efforts in Norristown and improve our county seat.
Yeah, I would agree, Joe, that is a really important thing, because if you go to Westchester, if you go to Doylestown, beautiful community centers, but Norristown is lagged behind. I had Stan Husky on about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about this very subject. Why is it that Norristown just can't get over the hump? Because there's people down there, Hank Cisco, Stan is one of them, that really believe in Norristown, that are really doing a lot of work to try to bring it back, but it just doesn't seem to be able to get over the hump.
Right. Especially, like you said, when you compare it to the other areas, there's law firms every 30 feet, restaurants and cafes. I'd like to see a renaissance in Norristown. And I'm hoping the Lafayette Street Extension Project brings business and developers interested in redeveloping the riverfront there. We have 2.5 miles of undeveloped riverfront on the Schuylkill. And I think that's, with the turnpike coming onto Lafayette Street, that'll help Norristown.
All right, it's work in progress here. The race has been delayed from the Poconos. It looks like they will race, and we'll go to the Poconos at noon, which is about 5 minutes right now. So this is kind of a bonus section for you and I. I didn't think we'd have the time here. So we're talking to Joe Gale, who's county commissioner in Norristown, which, as Joe mentioned, has a $389 million budget. And you're like a hawk watching that money, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I'm all for it. I mean, the last no vote with the North Hills Plaza, I thought was, I'll be honest with you, I thought it was a gutsy call on your point.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, it does take guts. It might not be the most popular thing over where I am in the building, but in my eyes, the public appreciates it. I get positive feedback. They're tired of government, running off with the tax dollars and just continuing to grow, and we have to rein it in.
Yeah, I mean, the North Hills Plaza, or the North Hills Manor it's called, is a project, $16, $17, $18 million. We don't know where it'll end up, right? I mean, it could go over budget.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen projects like that, that the government gets involved in fails. I mean, like I said, it's a combination of federal, state, county, and private dollars from the developer. But if it gets too costly and you're only housing 50... the units are 50, you're not even gaining units for people that have the need for housing.
Right.
So.
One of the things I noticed in the meeting, and again, the county commissioners meeting are on the website, at least they're probably back there today. They were doing some maintenance over the week, and I would encourage people to be involved and look at the meetings, because they're there. You don't have to sit down and watch the whole thing. You can watch half an hour, take a break, come back the next day or whatever. But I noticed when they had the meeting and voted on the North Hills Manor, one of the questions that Commissioner Arkush answered is, can this project ever be sold? And the head of the housing authority said no, which I thought was odd. I know it's too late in the program to bring up this, but they sold Park House. Why couldn't they fix this up and then sell this?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had the same mindset. I was the same questions. Park House was a prime example. You have to, when you have an asset, take care of your assets.
Right. And Park House was a big asset. Yeah. This, if $17, $18 million is being spent, that's a big asset too. So, well, we're just about out of time. You mentioned the fact you get emails and letters and whatever. If people want to get in touch with you, Joe, how would they do it?
Yeah, well, you can always go through the county website, and then I have my own website, joegale.com, JOEGALE.com. There's a contact page there. I see it personally. It comes right to my email. Yeah. And I respond to it, and then I update photos and keep the public aware of what I'm doing.
What's the number one question people ask you?
They always ask what it's like, your schedule. It's a lot of nights and weekends, right. Nonstop. And when you're in the public eye, you have to be careful what you do. You have to be...
Oh, yeah.
You know, you see a lot of scandal and corruption with elected officials. And
yeah.
I think if you just, the way I was raised with the moral character and common sense, if you use that every day, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, because you know, in spite of everything that goes on, you know if you go home at night or see your parents and you've done something, you're going to hear about it from them, too.
Right,
I mean, I'm like Gary Bowlby's still with us. When I got in trouble when I was young, the worst thing my mother could say to me is, "Wait till your father gets home." That was like, oh no, it's like a double whammy. The teacher gave it to you, your mom gave it to you, and then you waited there an hour and a half till Dad got home. So anyway, Joe, thanks so much for being with us.
Yeah, and I'm glad I was here the same day as Gary Bowlby with his open house coming up this weekend. I went last year and met a lot of folks.
Yeah, and that's going to be this weekend, right, Gary?
That is this weekend, this Saturday, 10 to 2.
And 217 Church Road, which is Gary's headquarters. You're not doing anything out of the Germantown Pike business office anymore.
No, we are not. No,
well,
we're just at
good.
the one location. It's an improved location.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one of the reasons I supported Joe when he was running is because he was for the people. And just listening to him talk here, it's so evident that he's looking after tax dollars where we are so lacking sometimes.
We appreciate it. Gary, thank you for being here. Joe, thanks for being here.
Barry, enjoyed the show. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. That's going to wrap it up for today. I think we go to racing coming up next from the Poconos. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time on the Bucksmont Business Journal.
The opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of the staff, management, or sponsors of WNPV Lansdale.